Hey everyone, my name is Marcus and welcome to Planet Therapy.
Thank you for sharing.
Just over broke. Welcome to Planet Therapy. This is the space where I aim to have casual conversations surrounding work-life balance, self-love, and also empowerment. So let's just get right into it, shall we? Just a bit of an intro to who I am anyway as a person. Like I said, my name is Marcus. I've graduated university, I studied business management and marketing, and I've had, let's say, a professional career for about the last 3 years. So I've operated within different sales roles, within, let's say, as an SDR, BDR, account executive. If you work in sales, you kind of know those sort of terms. But yeah, and it's been really interesting just navigating my professional journey. And again, a bit about myself, I guess within those sort of spaces, I feel like, although I feel like I've learned a lot and I feel like I've made so many accomplishments within that journey of like studying, doing extra courses, I found navigating those spaces a bit challenging. And when I sit down and think about it, I'm like, why is it challenging? And I feel like within some of these roles or some of these companies that I've worked with, I found that it's like, oh, navigating these spaces as a black man is really difficult sometimes. And why I say that is because, again, a job is a job where you are measured by what you do. And I guess within sales, it's a very high pressure environment. So you're always trying to meet targets every month, meet these KPIs. So you're naturally kind of surrounded yourself around that sort of pressure anyway. But as a person where I'm classed as, let's say, a minority group within these spaces, it's a bit difficult because sometimes I'm like, there's not that many people like me in these spaces, and I'm just like, okay, what does that mean? So, and I guess growing up, I don't know if a lot of people relate that, let's say, are also of the same heritage of being a black person, where we just automatically have to work harder in these spaces just to even just be accepted. So we might be putting in a lot more work than, let's say, other people just to kind of eat at that same table, if you get that sort of saying. So, and that's fed into even school, that's fed into earlier jobs where I just felt like a bit filled with anxiety, if that makes sense, and a bit of imposter syndrome where it's like, do I actually belong here? Do I belong in these spaces? Because I look around and sometimes I'm the only black person in my team. And within that, it comes with a lot of fear of like, okay, if I slightly underperform, what's that going to look like? So then you're just, for me anyway, I'm filled with that drive. I'm like, you know what, that's not even an option. I just have to perform higher than my peers just to kind of just keep my job and just stand out, and it's just become the norm. But I feel like along that journey, I've had to learn how to kind of take away some of these insecurities where it comes from, like thinking I'm the personality hire or the ethnic hire, just like within the company to make it look good, and kind of come to a way of finding balance and also self-love, because it made me realize that, you know what, I might be the only person within this company that looks like me, or a very small part of that. But it just means I have to do a lot more mental work to make sure that A, mentally I'm in a good place, and B, accept the situation for what it is. So in a lot of situations, I do have to just work harder, and that I had to become okay with that in a way where I set my own boundaries of my work, and also making sure that although I feel like I have to increase my productivity, it doesn't mean a decline of my mental health, if that makes sense. So that's just a bit about me. And I guess when it comes to why we're having this conversation today, why you're listening to me, is I've had so many different conversations surrounding around mental health or work-life balance with like friends and family and peers. And it's just always been an interesting topic to me, where I just feel like you always hear these buzzwords. Like, I'm going to say it's a buzzword because you always hear work-life balance, you always hear self-love, and it becomes a bit cliche, if that makes sense. But I had to take a step back and just think, okay, but what does that actually mean? And throughout, let's say, a best period of, let's say, last year, I was reading this book called Good Life, Good Vibes. And I realized that self-love is something that you just have to incorporate into different areas of your life to make sure that, hey, am I having a mental check-in to make sure I'm okay? Because it's so easy to listen to the noise of work and be in that sort of busy environment, and it's like you just drown yourself in it without actually having a mental check-in. And I found that when I'm able to do that, I'm actually a lot more productive. Like, and that's not just with work, that's in different areas. That's where, like, to make sure that am I eating well? Am I looking after my body? Am I making sure I'm investing in the different parts of my life that I do have? And I feel like when you're able to actually have that mental break or just mental pause, I just found for myself I was able to navigate my journey a lot easier. So I thought, well, why not have these conversations and actually learn so much more from different professionals, or just having my voice out there? Because I felt like growing up, or just especially the early stages of my career, it would have been nice to have someone just like me talk about some of these issues. And especially first as a man, I feel like it's very common that a lot of men don't like talking about mental health. And it's so scary to me, because when you think about it, it just comes from a place of a lot of pride to make sure that, you know what, work is work, you just have to do work, and that's just life, which in essence is true. But you have to also know how to take care of yourself and also be able to have these open and honest conversations, because you don't know what you'll learn from it. And it's like, although we are working, it's like you want to make sure you feel fulfilled with your work, and also not just work in different areas of your life. So I thought it's just important to have this conversation and just learn from different experiences that I come across, and also hopefully, you know, you can also learn and maybe have a conversation from my own experiences. So hence the podcast. I think Planet Therapy, I feel like it also sounds a bit like, what can I say? It kind of sounds, I don't want to say childish, but it does sound very casual. I was talking to my sister about this. She's like, no, Marcus, it's not too professional. Da, 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 da. And in essence, she's correct. It's not the most, like, it's not like Mind Matters or something like that, or Better Health. But I feel like mental health should be something, it should be a discussion point that should be fed into casual conversations, because it's a conversation that involves everybody. Like, everybody's invited to that conversation about mental health, whether you're what gender or sex, whatever occupation you have, or wherever you come from. Mental health is a conversational point that should be talked about, and I feel like it's so important that that it feeds into work conversations, because we spend most of our times in a 9-to-5 job, Monday to Friday, and so if most of your time is at work, why isn't it involved in the conversation at work? Why can't we talk about mental health and just making sure that we're checking in with ourselves to make sure that we do increase productivity? Because, boy, we have managers, we have these, and they have so much expectations of us, and it can take a mental toll. So let's acknowledge that and have a conversation about it. And hence why we have Planet Therapy. I have 3 main goals for this podcast so far that I have at the moment. So I'm going to try to stick to it, hold me accountable, but we're going to get through it. So the first goal I have with this podcast is to just make sure that mental health or well-being or work-life balance actually is a conversation that is casual. It's not something that's scared of or something that's just seen as cliche. It's something that we can learn how to embed it into our everyday lives, and it's just see the importance of it. So that's my aim. I want to be able, for myself and for you guys, to understand the importance of work-life balance, self-love, and just how you can incorporate your own definition into your everyday life. My second goal is actually just to encourage people to disconnect from the noise of everyday life and walk with me here. Well, I'm sad, but you know what I mean. Like, it's, again, you're at work Monday to Friday, and you only have the weekend sometimes to relax, and even then, you've got personal admin, you've got shopping, you've got kids sometimes, you've got families and friends, and it's just so much going on in your head. And I feel like I want to challenge myself and challenge other people to just learn how to disconnect from the noise and take time into your daily routines to invest in yourself. Invest in something that is positive, something that makes you not just think about work, and that doesn't just include gym. I made a LinkedIn post where it's like, take a step out and pause and find a hobby that takes you away from work. And when you think about it, the gym, you're working out your body. It is not work, and it is still work. It's like something that you can really just invest yourself into to unwind. And I want to make sure I do that and encourage you guys to do that. And I hope that's what I can do within this podcast. And the third aim is to be really consistent. So this means that I want to have at least had 10 episodes of this podcast series. And yeah, something so simple. That's what I want. And then see where we can go from there. And yeah, so that's it for this episode. It was just a quick pilot episode just to introduce myself, I guess, the podcast. And I just hope you guys resonate with this. You can find me on socials. You can find me on LinkedIn, Marcus Johnson. You can find this podcast also on TikTok. You can find it on Instagram. This is Planet Therapy. And yeah, just tune in. Let me know what you guys think of things I've mentioned, conversational points you might want to have. I also want to have guest appearances. So I already got a few lined up. So I'm really excited to have those conversations. And yeah, so stay tuned and stay blessed.